landing at 85 knots in an airplane that can cruise at 300.
Airspeed
requires adjusting to some big configuration changes.
There's so much difference going on with the pitch to deal with that flare, eh?
Oh yeah.
Good job. How long did it take you to get used to that? That is so weird.
Yeah, it's difficult at the beginning. And ground TBM Charlie Golf X-ray India on Fox 2, taxi to JetSmart, unfamiliar.
Charlie Golf X-ray India Rochester ground, taxi via left on Foxtrot, right on Romeo to the ramp.
Left on Fox, right on Romeo to the ramp.
First thing I did when I got my license was fly to Florida in a 172 and landed all kinds of unfamiliar airports, and it was in the 90s.
Ground Delta 1370.
All paper, trying to figure out what the hell we
Tell
were.
people taxiing is way harder than flying. This is really nice. I don't know if you've seen safe taxi diagrams.
Oh yeah, no, it's brilliant.
We were using the panel-mounted GPS, but this stuff is available on the iPad before flight. And I realize they're not exactly new, but I still find geo-referenced taxi diagrams amazing. Anyway, this quick mission had a purpose.
So do you have your freshly minted FAA license?
This is the return leg from our IFR flight to Rochester in the TBM850. Part 1 covers turbine engine start, takeoff, and it has Ferraris, so definitely check that out.
This comes in real handy on a...
Yeah, get a shot of this, Brock, because this is the problem. When you go to a new airport, it's like a maze. But not only do we have the map here, but we have the geo-reference so that you know where you actually are.
And it's track up all the time, which is really important.
Yes.
So you don't have to figure out, oh, do I go left or right? Am I upside down?
I've always been a track up guy. Are you that way?
Yes.
There's so many people that go north up on their maps. I'm like, I don't know.
Doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense, no.
My friend Osama could easily pass for a pro, but he's actually just a highly trained private pilot. I asked him how he got to the TBM.
Oh, that was a long journey. 172, 182, then a bunch of SR22s, first a normally aspirated, then a turbo, and then a Piper Meridian, and finally the TBM.
What did you find the biggest sort of differences to deal with transitioning from piston?
Oh, just not having to deal with all the piston issues, like shock cooling and mags and mag drops, and once you get used to this, you just can never go back.
Yeah, really.
And how soon after getting private did you go IFR? Pretty much right away? Or?
Pretty much right away. I started probably with about 85 hours. As soon as I got the Turbo 182, I immediately went into training for IFR.
We should have taken off on 7. Oh well.
Is there a little more time to warm up, I guess?
This is a jet engine. It's warm the minute you start.
Okay.
It's actually at its warmest during the start period.
Interesting.
You can take off 5 seconds after you start the engine.
That is so weird.
And how much recurrency training do you do for this airplane?
I do it once a year. I go down to Simcom and I do a factory authorized course in the simulator. You got to go and keep your skills sharp on, what do you do if you have a depressurization? What do you do if you have, engine fire? What do you do if you have electrical system problems? And that's the type of thing that we can do in the simulator and not in the real airplane.
See Part 1 for turbine engine startup. This episode focuses on approach and landing.
85 rotate. Positive rate, gears up. Put damper on. And then flaps up.
Does yaw damper take care of rudder for you completely?
Yes, my feet are off the pedals right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
Charlie Golf X-ray India, contact departure.
Departure now, X-ray India.
I tried to include most of the interesting procedural stuff into this cut, but obviously it's edited. But there are full, raw, uncut versions of both Leg 1 and Leg 2 for the Patreon supporters. Check the description for details on that.
You want to talk about some of your typical missions?
I don't have a typical mission per se. I mean, some of the flights that I will do almost every year is a trip down to Florida. Typically we do that in March break. This year we did it in November break. And on a trip like that, on the way down, I generally stop halfway in Columbia, South Carolina, clear customs, and continue on to any of the smaller airports that don't have U.S. customs. That's why I clear customs halfway. And on the way back, I typically would fly non-stop from a small airport in the Miami area back to Oshawa. That flight usually is conducted at 31,000 feet to get the minimum fuel burn. and would take anywhere between 3.5 hours to 4 hours, depending on whether I have tailwind or headwind.
So you can go from Florida to home faster than an airliner because you're definitely you're a little.
535 Lima November, radar contact 40
and
miles.
your luggage does not get lost.
Just a reminder, go to flightshots.com to win that A20.
All right, let's get set up for our arrival into Oshawa. So the first thing I usually do is I put the ATIS in COM2 and ground in COM2 as well. Push WX, see what's going on in Oshawa. 350 at 5, visibility 9, 3800 overcast, so VFR weather. And when the winds are 350, we'll most probably use runway 30, but we'll get the ATIS now. And if you like, we could fly an LPV approach today into Oshawa for runway 30. I can request it, and you can see what would happen on a typical IFR approach. We can pretend it's only 300 feet over Oshawa.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
All right, so we'll go ahead and load the approach, and it's going to be RNAV runway 30. I'm gonna guess we're gonna get Kevco, which is on this side of the lake. Minimums, I'll just grab the iPad here and see what the minimums are. Okay, and we're gonna do this approach and 700, which is what I thought. It's always good to double check. Enter, load. Buffalo from X-Ray India, any chance direct destination?
X-Ray India, yes sir, direct to Oshawa.
Direct Oshawa now, X-Ray India. Alright, so we'll request the approach with the Toronto controller. For now, we'll just head straight to Oshawa.
The plan is to fly this approach on autopilot all the way down to minimums.
Once I program and activate the approach, it's already programmed. Once I activate the approach, there's really nothing that we need to do except arm the approach button when we're cleared for the approach. Plane will do everything else. You just sit and monitor.
X-Ray India, descent maintain 6,000.
6,000, X-Ray India. Open the inertial separator early because I don't want to be scrambling to get it done.
So when you're flying, you're going 200 knots, indicated airspeed, all that air is being rammed into the intake. With the inertial separator off, essentially the vents under the cowl are blocked, so all that air is force-fed into the engine.
When we're flying clear blue sky, we take advantage of free power from the ram air, or free cooling effectively.
Right.
But if you're flying in ice, or if you're taxiing or taking off where you could get stones or FOD or ice, you want to deploy the inertial separator, basically opening up those ducts so that any object with mass will not make the U-turn into the engine, but will continue out the other side.
So you want to have that inertial separator deployed for taxiing, takeoff, and landing, and anytime you're in visible moisture.
X-Ray India, contact Toronto Center 133.4. Have a good day.
33.4, good day. Okay, I'm going to call him and ask for the Toronto TBM Charlie Golf X-Ray India 6000. We have information Papa at Oshawa requesting the RNAV runway 30 starting with Kevco.
X-Ray India cleared as requested, Oshawa altimeter 3035.
3035 direct Kevco now, X-Ray India. We go into the flight plan.
4945, climb to 8,000.
And we activate the Kevco as the initial point. So now we're all set up for the approach. We have not been cleared for the approach, so we don't arm the approach yet. But essentially, we're going to go to Kevco, and then
388, turn left.
Hopefully, it'll be cleared by then, and then the plane will fly the rest of it on its own.
I cut out a few minutes of cruising from this part.
So we've been cleared for the approach. I'm going to arm the approach. We're going down to 3,000.
281 Romeo, Roger.
And he said at Kevco we can contact the Oshawa Tower. So I'm going to go down to 3,000 now.
This quick hop across Lake Ontario was too easy for the TBM850. But we've got a more suitable mission coming where we'll be cruising way up in the flight levels. We're going to do that one this summer, so watch for it.
In the event of a missed approach, which is not going to happen today, we climb to 3,000 on track, and then we hold.
X-Ray India, contact Oshawa Tower 1201 now.
20.1 now, X-Ray India. Oshawa Tower, TBM Charlie Golf, X-Ray India, cleared for the RNAV runway 30.
X-Ray India Tower, altimeter 3035, wind is 360 at 6, and report map app final.
We'll give you a call, map app final, and the altimeter was 3036, X-Ray India.
It definitely wasn't a beautiful day, but it sure was busy. I trimmed out a few minutes of traffic advisories from this part.
He has easier time seeing us because we're above.
Kilo Bravo Zulu has the inbound traffic in sight.
Kilo Bravo Zulu, roger, and they're going to be turning northwestbound shortly. You're cleared en route.
Cleared en route, thank you.
Juliet, Quebec, Juliet Tower, traffic exiting Charlie, clear to land runway 30.
Juliet, Quebec, Juliet, thank you.
And aircraft calling ground, say again.
Fox Yankee, we're at the apron of the terminal looking for VFR to Kitchener 2.
I never saw him.
It's fine. We're not going to descend till we're past him.
Foxtrot Yankee, ground runway 30.
And as you can see, the glide path is now active.
Contact tower, holding short.
And we're below 178, so we're good to deploy the gear once we intercept. Gear and takeoff flaps always go together.
Zulu Mike Yankee Tower, keep the base turn in tight. Number 2, traffic short final. TBM, about 8 miles final following you.
Zulu Mike Yankee, turn right base now for runway 30.
Here comes the gear.
Golf Foxtrot X-ray, traffic ahead of touch and go. Keep it tight.
Reduce power to about
TBM 8 final. We'll be following you too.
Golf Foxtrot
Percent. We have 3 green.
Oh. When are you going to put down landing flaps?
When we slow down to landing flaps speed, usually we aim to have them out in IFR at least 1,000 feet above the ground.
With a max takeoff weight of nearly 7,400 pounds, this airplane can still land on short strips.
And in order to make it stall at a single engine stall speed with a wing that's barely longer than an SR-22, they had to put enormous flaps on the airplane.
Yeah.
And you'll see the dramatic shift in the chord. Once we deploy landing flaps, the plane almost has this attitude when we're landing. Because they put such a big flap on it, there was very little room left for the aileron, so they came up with a design called a spoileron.
Hey, that is cool, check that
where there is a spoiler and an aileron that are mechanically linked. From a pilot's point of view, I mean, it's just like any other airplane, but this increases the effectiveness of the ailerons.
Yeah, so you got this tiny aileron and this massive wing that spoils lift, so it essentially does what an aileron does, makes that wing want to drop.
We're approaching the flap speed, but there's no rush to put them out yet. We'll wait till 1,000 feet.
Foxtrot Yankee, negative, hold your position, landing traffic.
How does this thing glide? If you ever did
It glides very well if you remember to pedal the prop.
Right.
Officer with information follow.
It glides at about 900 feet a minute. As you can see, we haven't touched anything from the beginning of the approach.
The
workload for single pilot IFR is just unbelievable in this airplane.
That's awesome.
So the gear is done. Flaps, we still have to go to landing. Inertial separator is deployed. And the yaw damper is off. We're going to deploy the flaps, landing flaps, any minute now.
Tower uniform, holding short 30 when ready to go when able. Charlie uniform,
here we go, landing flaps,
and
watch the change in the attitude of the airplane.
Charlie uniform, Delta.
Oh yeah, wow.
Oh, it's still not done yet.
That's a lot of flap out there. The autopilot just deals with it.
Charlie uniform,
deals with it.
Follow the Cessna ahead, report turn.
That's why you want to do it before you disconnect the autopilot. This way when you take it off autopilot, it's nicely trimmed for you.
Yeah. I can't believe how nose down this feels.
Well, it doesn't just feel, we're 7.5 degrees nose down.
Yeah. What's our downwind check?
There is only one check that we do at 500, which is Giffy, gear, inertial separator, flaps, and yaw damper.
X-ray India Tower, departing traffic will be on the roll shortly. Wind 360 at 5, clear to land runway
500.
Clear to land on 30, X-ray India.
X-ray Charlie Oscar Tower, traffic departing the field southwestbound. Cessna will be climbing to 2,500 feet.
Oh, watch for traffic, X-ray Charlie Oscar.
We're still on autopilot. I'm going to keep it there till minimum.
At this point, it's turned into just a slow-flying, draggy machine. It's that's the idea.
Yes.
Amazing that this thing can have that kind of range of speed.
And we're looking for about 85.
Minimum.
Possibly a bit less over the numbers we're light today. You got it off autopilot. At this point, if we didn't see the runway, we would overshoot.
Right.
Oshawa Tower, Golf Zulu Juliet Sierra with information Papa. Currently 1 mile south of Fort Perry, inbound for landing. Golf Zulu Juliet Sierra.
Zulu Juliet Sierra Tower, runway 30, altimeter 3035, cleared right downwind. Report Columbus, not below 2,000 feet, have 3 in the circuit. Traffic on radar, 3 south of Fort Perry, 2,500 feet unverified.
Okay, sir.
Nice.
X-ray India Tower, exit right on Charlie, contact grounding.
X-ray India. So Charlie, so you know, is 2,500 feet from the beginning of the runway. And I did not even brake aggressively. I could probably do it to 2,000 feet.
35, cleared right downwind.
Huge thanks to Osama for giving me the ride and being willing to share it.
Okay guys, I'm gonna make a phone call to customs now.
I really appreciate the supporters on Patreon, and visit flightchops.com to see what the sponsors are giving away. Last month, Laura won an iPad mini, and next month we've got $1,000 worth of stuff plus an A20 headset from Bose. And until next time, keep your flight chops sharp.
This isn't going to be graceful.